Hello everyone, and welcome to an analysis of dance, where we discuss the movements and debuts of the Billboard dance charts in immaculate detail, with in-depth reviews of each debut each week. So, after numerous circumstances that made it a migraine and a half to put together last week's episode, seriously, it was rough for many reasons, and quite frankly, I'm just glad that that's behind us at this point. Well, thankfully, we're back up to the quality, because not only was there consistent quality debuts across all formats, and not just Hot Dance, which actually saw a much better week than last week, but some welcome surprises showed up on both Dance Sales and Dance Airplay too, though, showing that 2026 is looking like one of the most exciting years moving forward, and with the potential for another song to challenge for #1 in the next couple of weeks on Hot Dance. Yeah, this is looking really exciting. I am fully on board with this year at the moment. But yeah, there's Hot Dance, and I think it's really notable that Dracula by Tame Impala managed to take back #1. It's not a remotely secure #1, especially with some of the songs that are beneath it right now. It could very easily lose that spot in the next couple of weeks, but it seems to be holding on streaming, with radio actually on the increase, and unlike some other songs, is actually doing decently well there. Definitely helped that No Broke Boys by Disco Lines and Tinashe at #2 was just collapsing on radio, with streaming not being strong enough to really hold it above it. It was not exactly that surprising that it lost that #1, and considering some of the competition beneath it right now, this could fall a lot faster than some people would expect. Hell, it's very much on track to lose out to Let the World Burn by Chris Gray, Rebel and Cry to #3, which is gaining significantly on streaming and has not really much of anything else, but it's at least doing decently well. I can see this making a run for the Hot 100 once Christmas music dies off. But what's definitely on track to actually chart as early as next week, and it's a song that I called being a massive hit from the moment I heard it last week on Dance Sales, and it's a debut that I covered, Heard the Lights Off by Kato featuring John, debuting at #4. Now, this is especially notable because alongside solid streaming, it has by far the best sales of any song in the entire country right now. Not just dance music, this is at #1 on the sales charts overall thanks to all the memes, and at the rate it's going, it could very well debut on the Hot 100 next week, which, considering that the last time that a new Danish act actually charted here was Lucas Graham back in 2016, yeah, this is looking really promising for both of these artists, and the song's still great. I am thrilled to see it make a run. But once you skip past I Run by Haven featuring Caitlin Aragon down to #5, which is still doing decently on streaming and sales, I expect this will stick around and actually gain once radio is on board with it. Well, the rest of the top 10 didn't really see much irregular movement at all, as a certain song has been booted into recurrency, which meant that cuts like Victory Lap by Fred Against Skepta and Pluck Boy Max actually held really steady at #6, and with the album Impact from the USB re-release actually making its run next week, with some other songs that I don't really see outperforming this, I can see this having a lot of staying power going forward, and thank God too that it's still as great as it is. Certainly has more longevity appeal than No Batty Dawe by Zakai and Slaughter at #7, which only has streaming, and at the rate it's going, it's slowing down pretty considerably. This might have hit its peak, and I can't complain. Hell, I'd say the same about My Old Ways by Tame Impala at #8, although in this case it doesn't really surprise me that this is not really sticking around. Streaming was throwing this out fast, and given that it's not getting any sort of push on radio at all, this is probably going to end up being out of the top 10 soon. It is what it is. But for now, it's thankfully above the unwelcome return of both Ian Asher songs to the bottom of the top 10, with Blackout Days Stay Away at #9. Thank God that this collapsed on radio really fast. It's got nothing else besides decent streaming, and that's really revealing. And Desire with Ollie Alexander at #10. This is the highest charting song associated with Years and Years ever, and quite frankly, I'm disappointed that it's this lazy pile of crap and not the original Desire that absolutely deserved this run and got completely robbed back in 2015. Good job, guys. Really great sign there, and I'm not looking forward to this sticking around even longer. And on the note of not being happy, our fall-offs here, and look, while I'm not exactly going to complain about Accelerata by Smasher and Mozzie being gone yet again, especially alongside Tsunami by DJ Snake featuring Future and Travis Scott, which utterly plummeted and again doesn't remotely surprise me. If it's going to take out Talk of the Town by Fred Against Sammy Virgie and Reggie, which really surprisingly stuck around longer than I expected, and especially the Days Notion remix by Crystal, which is gone after a really remarkable run where it lasted on the charts for over a year. yeah, net loss, at least for me. Hell, Fred again had a rough week as well, as Feisty with Beer collapsed to 17. Although it didn't fall as hard as I expected, it might stick around another week, and again, let's see how that USB rollout will actually impact and let some singles potentially come back. That would be really welcome. But on the topic of songs that I'm not exactly warming to, our other notable fall was Fever by Buckshot and Fake Mink at 21. And look, I'm sorry, but this one's calling on me considerably. I can absolutely respect it, and it's the sort of thing that's really cool to see charting, but as a song on its own, it just gets worse the more I think about it. And quite frankly, that amateurish production and the lackluster vocals really drag it down for me. I don't dislike it, but it's something that I have no interest in returning to, and quite frankly, I don't really care either way if it sticks around. It is what it is. And since Turn the Lights Off by Katzo featuring John was already covered in a dedicated segment last week as one of the 5 debuts here, that leaves 4 more, starting off unfortunately with number 24, Got Away by Subtronics and ILLENIUM featuring Royal and the Serpent. Okay, seriously, can we stop giving Subtronics charting songs in 2025? Are we seriously that desperate for him? I mean, I get that Grizztronics was, oh god, 5 years ago, but seriously, everything else that Subtronics has charted with, especially in the dubstep sphere, has been utterly mediocre to outright bad, with him having the sort of production instincts that show that he just cannot make this brand of dubstep to save his life, with some of the most awkward, lacking in energy, and completely annoying songs that you would hear in mainstream dubstep, with a lot of production and mixing quality that shows that this guy was never ready for the mainstream, and I have no idea why he's still here. And with this being a teased dubstep collaboration with ILLENIUM that's been in the works for months now, bringing on the admittedly kind of lackluster singer Royal and the Serpent, who has completely squandered any potential that she had, especially considering that she had some really promising dance collaborations at first that have just been going downhill since she got famous. And with this, yeah, this sucks. It's not good at all. Painfully flat atmosphere and mixing with the sort of production that is just consistently bad as you'd expect out of Subtronics, with not even a remotely memorable main melody or hook to really drive me in, and especially alongside the vocals of Ryan that sounds so anonymous and completely remove any sort of personality she had from Overwhelmed, as well as the utterly abysmal mixing on the drops, where Subtronics takes over and his signature loud and abrasive mixing style just becomes insufferable in record time, with the sort of symphony that just gets grating and really hurts my ears every time I hear it. I'm not against loud dubstep like this on principle, but come on, this guy cannot mix his dubstep to save his life. It's really something that the best thing he's produced recently was a remix of Blackout Days that was straight up drum and bass. And yeah, it proves once again why Subtronics' career should have been over at least 3 years ago, and quite frankly, ILLENIUM working with him at this point is really disappointing, and now I'm actively concerned for the rollout of Odyssey between this and some of the other singles that have come out. I'm really hoping that the album does not take this sort of direction, because with this, yeah, this sucks. Skip it. Number 23, Solo by Fred Again and Blanco.
No, tell me I'm blank, bright no, maybe I drank, bright no, baby, I'm solo. How do you love me when I don't love me? It was all side by side in a Vic. Bright no, baby, I'm blank. They can't stand next to me. Life goes on in my head, I'm solo.
Okay, so I had a slight shiver down my spine when I first saw this and didn't really look deeper at the entire song, because seriously, the idea of Fred Again remixing Poland's 2023 Eurovision entry just sent a shiver down my spine, although it's the sort of thing that would also be so ludicrous that I'd be curious about what it sounds like, but unfortunately this isn't that. Instead, it's another list of the songs that go more towards the UK drill approach, being another collaboration with a UK rapper who's had a decent profile but nothing all that major, and unsurprisingly, just like a lot of the other songs that he's been doing in this style recently, this is really solid. Not really a ton to say here, it's pulling from the same template that led to songs like Talk of the Town or especially OK, where this unfortunately doesn't have the level of interesting ideas that those songs have, and it feels a bit rinse and repeat for Fred Again at this point. He could really do to expand his range a little bit more with this one. But then you have that stuttery guitar-esque synth against the constantly switching catching groove that allows the house sections to really shine considerably in this mix. And more surprisingly, that house section was not really hitting for me as much as the trap stuff, which for Fred, again, that's just weird to say. Still good because Fred's operating on a high floor here. There's a quality with all of his songs that really deserves a lot more recognition. But man, I do wish this was a little bit more interesting than it is. It's pretty good, but again, mid-tier for the album release. We'll have to see what charts next week. It could be interesting. Number 19, Deeper by Disclosure and Leon Thomas. I'm not remotely surprised that the majority of the songs that Disclosure have charted past She's Gone Dance On have really relied on their guest features to get anywhere. Look, I love this duo and I think what they're doing is incredible at the moment, especially with the quality of the singles absolutely being there. But it looks like their independent status kind of makes their marketing a little bit lackluster, and it's really telling that the songs that charted are with names like Chris Lake or especially Anderson .Paak. And with this being a collaboration with Leon Thomas of Mutt fame, who's currently charting pretty considerably across the world. Yeah, this one was unsurprising that it would chart here, and in the grand tradition of the songs that have charted from this rollout, this is really damn good, possibly even great. I mean, yes, it's not as strong as No Cap, mainly down to the fact that the vocal mixing feels way too loud and inorganic to really work well with Leon Thomas. I seriously had to check whether my volume was wrong when the vocals just popped in out of nowhere for the intro. They feel really jarring and out of place compared to the much cleaner vocals that they actually use later on. But ironically, it's actually the song that feels the closest to what Disclosure were doing back in the Settle era, with a lot more of a chill garage instrumental that actually sounds really pretty, especially with those submerged sounding synths that fit into the title really well. It feels like you're going deeper down as the song goes on, and with the elements being so gorgeous next to each other, I think it works way better than I expected. And when you have Leon Thomas, who just sounds sublime next to this mix with some of the richest and most welcoming vocal melodies I've heard out of this duo, honestly, I was really impressed by the way that this sounded quite a bit. And when you actually give him room to breathe, Leon Thomas shows his skills as a singer. He's actually pretty credible in this R&B lane, and the fact that he was brought on for this song, it doesn't remotely surprise me at all. Between this and Mutt, I can honestly hear the potential here. I'm really curious where he goes next after this, because I can seriously see him having some staying power if he actually promotes himself a little bit further. And while I do think that the vocal mixing holds this back from being amongst their best songs, honestly, this is really damn strong regardless, and even with that, I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. Really damn good, if not great song. Yeah, these guys consistently deliver. Worth hearing. Number 13, I Think I'm Addicted by Oscar Medkay and Haley Joelle.
And I want you so bad that I'm scared that now I know how good it is.
It feels so goddamn relieving to see Oscar Medkay finally chart here with an actual new song, and quite frankly, the success of this song and some of his other non-charts like Spellbound are proving that this guy is absolutely going to stick around. I mean, it's so important to note that this came out at the very end of November. This wasn't a first week tracking run either. This had to slowly build up its momentum over time, and has reached a stage now where it's charting on Hot Dance. Quite frankly, I expected this would be much lower of a debut than it was, but it debuting this high indicates that this is going to stick around, thank God for that. Now, it's more interesting that the guest vocalist on here, Haley Joelle, has actually charted on Hot Dance before. She was on a Stonebridge collaboration called Meet in the Middle, which was one of his most successful songs on Club Play, and actually managed to cross over for a really respectable run, and quite frankly is still a really damn good song. I really miss when Club Play had songs like that actually charting semi-regularly. We can bring it back now. So yeah, all signs point to this sticking around pretty considerably next week. And holy shit, this is excellent. One of Oscar Medkay's biggest strengths is balancing that silky, smooth, and incredibly relaxed house groove with some really catchy and distinct melodies that are easy to get stuck in your head, and quite frankly give his material a lot more mainstream accessible punch than even some of the other names in this scene, like say Shallow for example. And here with Haley's breathy vocal delivery that is buried so deep into the mix that basically added another element to the entire track, against the absolutely stunning atmosphere and those gorgeous pianos that play off the subtle synth integration, it just sounds incredible on a production level. And seriously, it's the sort of thing you'd never expect to actually get mainstream traffic given the sound, but of course in classic Oscar Medkay fashion, he actually ends up putting some really catchy melodies throughout this entire track. The sort of thing that's easy to get stuck in your head and just automatically vibe to whenever you hear it. And quite frankly, this has become a big staple of my summer driving playlist and has cemented the fact that Oscar Medkay is here to stay. So yeah, between this and some of his other charting songs, I am thrilled that this guy is going to have some actual staying power and live up to all his potential, because with songs like this, yeah, he's absolutely going to get there. This is one of the best charting songs of 2025 so far. This is one of the best charting songs of 2026 so far, and while it's a long distance away before the end of the year actually ends for Billboard, yeah, this is a frontrunner for my favorite charting song right now. Absolutely excellent, worth hearing if you somehow haven't already. Let's please make this a hit. And coming off of that, okay, seriously, at this point, it's been a year since the chart has come out, or at least goddamn close to it. I think we can all agree that dance pop has been one of the worst things that's happened to this chart in recent memory, and quite frankly, with weeks like this that are showing no debuts and only filler re-entries, this chart is officially dead to me. I'm not even against moving non-producers to a different chart. It will at least give more opportunity for smaller names that are lesser known to actually have a chance, but between Billboard completely lying with the announcements by saying that this would be a 25 song chart and then ended up being 15, and Hot Dance being utterly screwed over by this because they're too lazy to actually track some sort of consistent momentum with certain songs. And seriously, if a bunch of teenagers on Talk of the Charts are actually doing this and you're not, that's really embarrassing, especially when, hell, I've actually done a dance pop revision chart that's a full 25 songs and actually has enough to fit within every single week of the Billboard year. This is inexcusable. And it's especially bad right now because How It's Done by Huntrix is at number 1, and quite frankly, there is no competition at all. Nothing has enough radio spins in this particular style to actually make a run, and considering that How It's Done is actually getting radio in its own right, yeah, this is going to be an easy number 1 stick around from 2025. Not sure how I feel about that. Oh, and also Jealous Type by Doja Cat lost all its radio down to number 9, and 1-800 by BB No Money and Iron Mouse is back at 15. Look, who cares at this point? Quite frankly, this song has no reason sticking around as long as it has. I mean, it's not like dance streaming was all that interesting too, but given that it's a smaller metric chart and still has a lot more interesting stuff going on, I think it makes dance pop's complete stagnation even more inexcusable. Yes, How It's Done by Huntrix is number 1 here as well, but it's also worth noting little smaller falls like Let the World Burn by Chris Gray, Rebel and Cry being the biggest streaming gainer for a second week in a row at number 7, but what actually looks like it's more interesting to talk about in the most depressing way possible, Fame is a Gun by Addison Rae is back at 13, which seems to be getting all sorts of critical acclaim and people saying that it's one of the most influential and best pop songs of the entire year, and I still genuinely don't get the appeal with this one. It's badly produced junk with a vocalist who is completely devoid of all charisma, and quite frankly, all the critical acclaim this gets alongside the album make zero sense to me. This is one of the worst hits of the year, and quite frankly, I'm going to stand by that. This absolutely blows. It has no reason being back here. I mean, at least Dance Sales had some stuff happening to it. Not exactly the most promising signs when the 2 big debuts are both Christmas songs, but hey, I'll at least take what I can get here. And that starts with Turn the Lights Off by Kato featuring John, unsurprisingly surging to number 1. Expect this to sit at the top for a very long time. It's got a lot of momentum behind it, and quite frankly, it's a considerably better one than Takedown was. And then there's other movements, like the expected falls for Jamaican Bam Bam by Hugo and Salto at 14, and Positive by Jam back at 13. Again, I'm surprised that both of these are actually sticking around at all. But the real big story, How It's Done by Huntrix down to number 6. I mean, again, it's got radio support behind it, but the streaming and sales collapse are not looking really promising at all. We'll have to see if this makes a run back to the Hot 100 soon. I can see it potentially getting there. Oh, and in our opposite end, much to my annoyance, we had songs that came back that will just refuse to go away, like say Dancing Queen by ABBA at 15, The Sound of Silence Spiral remix by Disturbed at number 12, and even DJ Play a Christmas Song by Cher and Kelly Clarkson at number 9. Yikes. And on that note, yeah, our debuts follow suit behind these, unfortunately starting with number 8, Hot in December by Kylie Minogue.
In the heat of the summer, a night to remember. Yeah, you're
so since this genre was absolutely not for me, where I can count the level of Christmas songs I actually enjoy on maybe one hand, potentially two at best, and especially when they're from dance pop singers long past their primes, releasing in the worst possible month to get any sort of momentum, it doesn't surprise me that this was relegated to dance sales. Being a re-release song that was attached to the 10-year anniversary edition of Kylie Minogue's Christmas album back in 2015, and okay, I'll give her credits. I actually don't think this is bad. It's perfectly fine for what it is, actually. Yes, the mixing is really subpar, especially on the chorus where there's so many muffled elements trying to fight for attention and it gets really tiring really fast, but I'll at least give credit for the solid Robin-esque production style that Kylie Minogue is going for, where it actually does fit into her modern style quite a bit, and more interestingly, she actually sounds surprisingly invested and not like a malfunctioning robot on vocals. Quite frankly, I expected that she would sound really bad on this song considering how much Cher got ruined back last year, but for me, she actually surprisingly sells this intimate hookup moments, and honestly, if you take out those really badly integrated sleigh bells and jingle noises that do seem really out of place and really ruin the vibe for me, I can honestly see this being the sort of track that I would unironically return to outside the holidays. It's got enough elements to be an easy sell for the mainstream, if anything else. So yeah, it's not exactly great by any means, and again, it's stuck in the Christmas cliches that hold it back from being genuinely great, but for me, I was not exactly all that against this. It's fine for what it is. Number 2, Christmas is Here by Cher.
Take our broken heart out of the cold. Just reach out to my hand to hold.
Meanwhile, this just feels more sad and desperate by the minute. I get that DJ Play a Christmas Song was Cher's first charting song in a very long time, but seriously, it's at the point now where it just feels like she's pandering to try and make that song a second time, and nothing seems to have worked yet. And of course, we follow up Kylie Minogue's semi-modern Christmas song with an actual modern Christmas song, and yeah, sorry, this one's way worse across the board. This time going for a synthwave sound that barely feels like the holidays at all, but feels like the sort of thing that just is lazy coming out of Cher at this point. And when she's covered in so much autotune that she just sounds robotic and completely lacking in actual Christmas cheer, it doesn't surprise me why people are not on board with this, and I include myself on this one too. I don't like this at all. I mean, I can at least give her credit for trying. It's not the worst Christmas song I've heard, but it's by far the least essential I've heard in recent memory, and quite frankly, this is not really all that good. I'd pass. I mean, thank God it looks like it's moving to a week now where Christmas music never impacts proper dance radio, and quite frankly, this was certainly one of the weeks of all time. Not exactly interesting, but hey, at least at number 1 we had a song that was pretty decently obvious going to make it here. Yep, it's Yes Baby by Madison Beer. Quite frankly, it has all the elements to appeal to both pop and dance radio, and while the former was a little underwhelming in terms of run, the latter honestly is proving that Madison Beer's got a ton more staying power than I think anyone expected, and with this being a really strong song that's not really losing out all that momentum, it could actually make a run for a second week at the top. That would be really cool. Hell, I'm surprised that didn't happen for Gone 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 by David Guetta, Tay Swims and Tones 9, number 2, which did see a decent fall on spins, and quite frankly, the fact that it hit number 1 so fast might have been to its detriment. I don't really know how much longevity this is going to have, but at least it's looking more promising than Set Me Free by Armin van Buuren and Sasha at number 3, which is making a run for number 1, probably a bit too late in the year to really affect it all that much, and it probably will end up losing a lot of its runs in 2026, but at the moment, it's at least making the year-end list. I'm not going to complain there. And speaking of which, we got Crazy by Miles Lloyd and Buns at number 4. Really, at this point, I don't expect it will have much staying power considering that it's losing spins, and geez, that's kind of revealing that a 2-track push onto radio at the same time for Bun was not exactly as good as I expected it would be. And that unfortunately opens up a window for Cry For You 2025 by Side Piece at number 5, which quite frankly, I'm just disappointed that dance radio is still platforming a lot of these obvious nostalgia bait cover song crap. Quite frankly, I have no idea where this is going to go, and I really hope it stalls out fast. It is not good at all, especially when it denies legitimately great songs like What If It Takes You Away by Will Sass featuring Malou, 2 at number 6. And man, it's looking really worrying for the chances of this actually hitting number 1, considering that it's starting to lose spins pretty slowly. I expect this to be gone soon. Quite frankly, it had a better run than I expected, if anything else. And really, the only reason why this gained at all in terms of positioning was mainly down to the songs above it, which are just collapsing considerably, with the big one being Ocean by Calvin Harris and Jessie Reyes at number 7. Again, Calvin Harris, you could probably push something new at this point. The singles have not exactly had much staying power since Blessings really occurred. You could do a lot better than this. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like the other song that fell this week really lost all that much, being Forever by ILLENIUM, Tongren and Alna at number 8. I mean, it's not looking great, but still, the fact that this is sticking around decently well is really concerning for me. And finally, we have 2 good to great songs that are actually seeing some genuine traffic, with the first one surprisingly being Don't Blame Me by James Carter at number 9. Look, this is his first song that's hitting the top 10 on his own, and quite frankly, it's grown on me a decent bit, so I don't really have much issues with this. Although, let's be real, it just gets absolutely smoked by Bring Me to Life by Tiesto and Fours at number 10, which saw a massive spin increase, even if I don't really see this having the sort of staying power that a lot of his songs from last year did, but we'll have to see. I would really like to be proven wrong there. But on the other side, we have the 2 songs that are really the only notable stories in our fall-offs this week, and both are easily going to make the year-end list, with Superpowers by Telecast and Oaks easily clenching it, unfortunately alongside No One Else by Two Friends featuring Corbin Besson. Look, I guess it's even here, just gonna say that. But what's worrying comes in some of our falls, where some feel like they're charting a bit too late to have any sort of chance at the year-end list, and might end up getting caught between years, much to my disappointment. I mean, yes, you got songs like Ocean by Calvin Harris and Jessie Reyes at 14, Sophia by Vons at 23, and Waterfalls by James Hyde featuring Sam Harper and Bobby Harvey at 25. These are all going to make the year-end list at least. I'll definitely take those. But what's more concerning comes in songs like Born to Fly by Annabelle England and Mary Droppins at 31, or especially You Got Me Feeling by Parcels at 27, where at the rate it's going, it might end up falling just short of the year-end list considering the spins it needs. And quite frankly, I'm just really disappointed that Parcels weren't able to make a year-end list. Let's hope they get something on Triple J if anything else. Oh, and also Deep Clear Water by Griffin and Grizz is collapsing to 50. Quite frankly, I'm not surprised by this. The song's not exactly mainstream friendly, and with Grizz being a name that's not exactly guaranteed to make the mix sound as clean as he could, it just left out. It is what it is. And in our jumps, well, it got pretty hectic as we saw a lot of songs bounce in to replace some really big falls and fall off near the top of the charts. I mean, yes, on one hand, alongside Bring Me to Life in the top 10, it's nice to see some consistently successful songs that might have a run going into 2026, like Where's My Husband by Ray unsurprisingly surging up to 26, alongside some interesting ones like Fancy Ship by Sid and Taylor Renee at 22, Not Gonna Be Your Boo by Clooney and Robin S finally making the top 20 at 18, and Human by Gil Glaze getting a very late promising run at number 12. Shame this will probably just end up falling short as well, but hey, I wouldn't complain about it being here. But alongside that, it took the unwelcome jump of Hello by Sagala Leanne and Janita Gandhi at 24. Quite frankly, I'm disappointed that this is even still here. And even worse is Girls MIA by Anima Amseluk featuring Kylie Gilbert at 41. Yeah, not good at all here. Both those songs absolutely blow. Thankfully, it looks much better over on Dad's Airplay, as we saw some pretty decent and pretty considerable ones. And while it is a little bit annoying that Love You for Life by Loud Luxury and Emily Roberts debuted all the way at 40, if it's going to take up Skin and Bones by Shab at 39, Faded by Hayla and Nelly Furtado at 36, and the big one of Where's My Husband by Ray at 19, thanks to that massive David Guetta remix, yeah, I'm going to take this absolutely for me. All of those songs are really solid and make up for Loud Luxury charting at all. And thank God it looks like a lot of these are actually more likely to stick around than some of our debuts, where unfortunately against all odds, Jamaican Bam Bam by Hugo and Salto held up and actually managed to debut at 47. God damn, I am not looking forward to this one. And even as someone who can understand where these samples would appeal on their own, together they just sound like a complete mess. This really blows. But on to the other 4 debuts that thankfully look a lot better. Number 49, Hold On by Nathan Dawe and Abby Flynn. say, look, even as someone who has admitted to not really liking some of Nathan Dawe's older hits, I was at least morbidly curious that this one would turn out good, considering that the last time that Nathan Dawe and Abby Flynn collaborated in Here You're in Your Arms was honestly a really damn solid song, and the sort of thing that surprised me that it didn't really perform all that well on Dance Airplay, especially when Nathan Dawe would chart with Over You with Cheyenne, which is now on track to make the year-end list and is a damn good song as well. And especially after Move a Little Closer, I just want Abby Flynn to work with a lot more morally correct producers, and quite frankly in this case, I'm glad she did, because yeah, this turned out great as well. For one, I really like the production when Nathan Dawe blends the breakbeats and house sections together really seamlessly with the sort of build-up and transition that honestly worked a lot better than I expected, with the verses having this more low-key sound that honestly works a lot better in conveying the atmosphere, before we get into those really credible drops where the credible bass line is actually floating around the mix and sounds really satisfying. I pointed this out when I first heard it, but the way that the beat just syncopates alongside that bass is just really satisfying to listen to. Really on board with that idea. And when Abby Flynn is unsurprisingly allowed to actually have some space to breathe, she sounds incredible and shows off her fantastic vocal range. So yeah, in other words, this is a really great return to form that I'm glad is finally charting. Might like this even more than Over You. We'll have to see if this actually sticks around. I would not complain. Number 43, Stay Awake by Linney.
Stay awake with me, baby, when the world gets dark. You're the only thing I see.
Seeing Linney chart by herself was honestly kind of surprising, and man, I wish I had less mixed emotions going into it. I mean, on one hand, her collaboration with Leighton Giordani, Act of God, was not remotely good, but on the other hand, she has a collaboration with the dubstep and melodic future bass producer Blanco called How It Feels, which is honestly one of the most criminally underrated non-hits of the year. I think it's a really strong song on its own right, and really proves that this melodic house sound really works well for Linney's vocals. I was hoping that she would do more of it, especially here, and yeah, that's exactly what she did. Definitely nowhere near as unique or unfortunately as good as the songs that it's referencing, where the mixing especially just feels like the whole song is being compressed within every inch of its life, and the sort of atmosphere that this is going for feels really lacking. But Linney's joyful and really interesting vocal range actually stands out quite a bit. She sounds like she genuinely cares, and for a song like this that actually goes for a lot more of an interesting sound behind it, I'm actually kind of behind this, even if, yes, the drops do remind me a lot of Never Going Home Tonight by David Guetta and Alesso. Yeah, charming. I mean, it's a brand of festival house I mostly like, and when it has no elements that tend to lean in towards the uncanny valley side, yeah, I'm actually on board with this. Pretty solid song, worth hearing. Yeah, good stuff. Number 38, Turn the Night On by Kizzia and Lux.
Everybody's up on the wall and you're the right song playing. You move and the room starts shaking. The party crowd all spins around you. Yeah, you know just how to turn the night on.
Okay, so before you ask, this is not some random musical side project of the ranking and chart YouTuber of the same name, although considering that he might actually be watching this video right now, hey, Lux, how does it feel to have someone with your name actually charting on Dance Airplay? That would be interesting. But it's also worth highlighting that this is probably the single most obscure song that I've seen chart here in recent memory. So for context, Kizzia is a relatively new and really under the radar country singer, with this particular song's original version only having 50,000 streams, and honestly being surprisingly credible for a song of its kind. It's pretty good stomp rock and actually has a really interesting hook, and even if the budget does shine through and the mix feels a lot more flat than it should, it's overall pretty solid. I get why it has a small audience. So fast forward to now where Lux, who has ironically got a much bigger audience than Kizzia, actually remixes the song and releases it as the dance mix. Well, it eventually got pushed here too. Despite the fact that the song is that small to the point where the streaming numbers on Spotify are not even visible, meaning this has less than 1,000 streams. Interesting. And honestly, the fact that that's in the back of my mind and I can still call this genuinely credible and actually pretty decent, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, yes, the shoestring budget is still there, especially with the really amateurish vocal mixing, where especially on the vocals, the mixing just feels really lackluster and amateurish. Again, it's the sort of thing where you can tell it's by a relative unknown, and the budget really does shine through there. But honestly, I can't deny that the groove here actually gives us a lot more of a nighttime appeal that fits with the content of the the original track. And even with all of that, the vocal line that's as catchy as it is, it actually ends up sticking around here and honestly sounds really nice on this mix. It creates much more of a driving sound that I think works well with this song. And even more impressive is that the country EDM vocals don't actually clash in any sort of way. They actually sound really natural here. Geez, the fact that some big name artists can't do that, that's really interesting to note. And when you have stunning synth production and a much more low-end groove, it's a pretty credible dance remix. I don't think it's anything all that interesting, and the fact that it's not exactly got the biggest budget in the world means that it's probably not something I'm going to return to. But yeah, not bad at all. I don't mind this. It's fine. And finally, number 37, Kissin' My Friends by Marshmello and Nathan. And on the topic of country EDM, geez, it looks like Marshmello abandoned that as soon as the money dried up, and quite frankly, it says a lot about the fact that he's really in this for the money and doesn't really have that level of passion anymore, or at least you wouldn't be able to tell by all the new music that he's dropping, which sounds so corporate and focus grouped. It's really disappointing. I mean, his other country EDM pivots just flopped hard on streaming, especially Holy Water, which, yes, it did chart on the Hot 100, but it was only because of its big radio push. Certainly not because anyone was actually buying or streaming this. Its numbers were not good. And it's really telling that as soon as the money dries up for that, he goes and works with Inji. And for those of you who don't know, Inji is a female producer and singer who is most known nowadays for making some tech house that leans closer to a much more trashier club aesthetic, and even had a song chart on the global dance charts with Belly Dancing, which is still pretty damn solid and has had some genuine success since then, especially with the UK club charts embracing it pretty considerably. I'm not surprised that she has an audience still. So naturally, Marshmello decides not to play into what Inji's most known for, instead going for a much more chill brand of drum and bass that confines Inji to mainly vocals here, where her voice is so high-pitched that it sounds like Pink Pantheress, and the comparison is really unignorable. And really, it's the sort of thing where I think it's kind of weird that it has a beat this chill for a song with a clear sing-along hook. It doesn't feel all that natural or cohesive. But I'll be completely fair here, I actually really like that hook, and the instrumental has this smooth subtleness to everything that surprisingly works really well coming out of Marshmello. Between this and No Man's Land, he's actually got a pretty decent knack for some nice nighttime drum and bass atmosphere. He should do more of it. I think it would be good for him even if it won't get him a mainstream hit anymore. And if anything, this actually feels a lot more balanced in a collaboration than I expected, especially considering that Inji got relegated to vocals. Her presence here actually ends up making the song a lot more unique and distinct for Marshmello than I expected. So yeah, the clash between the instrumental and the vocals means it's not great by any means, but you know what? This isn't half bad either. I actually found this pretty solid. It's decent. And yeah, that's the week, and as I said before, really damn good. I mean, the obvious best is going to I Think I'm Addicted by Oskar, Medk, and Haley Joelle. That's not even a remotely close contest there. That song is excellent. But for Honourable runner-up, it was pretty close between two other songs as Hold On and Deeper could have easily both gotten this, but I think I'm going to lean closer on Deeper, considering that while the vocal mixing isn't as great as I would have liked, it's got a lot more production elements that I can see myself returning to, and quite frankly it stands out a lot more, even if Hold On is a really damn good song as well. For worst, I mean, that's also really obvious, being Got Away by Subtronics and ILLENIUM featuring Raw and the Serpent, which is easily getting the worst on the back of huge disappointment and the fact that Subtronics is still being enabled in 2025. And Dishonourable runner-up, Christmas Is Here by Cher. Look, I don't think the song is bad by any means, and quite frankly there are much worse things out there than Cher making more holiday music, especially original ones, but the bad production really does shine through, and quite frankly it's weak at this point and shows why Cher has not exactly had much staying power since she got back on the charts with DJ Play a Christmas Song. Next week, well, there's actually the potential for Turn the Lights Off to actually hit number 1 considering the upwards momentum it's got, so that would be really cool to see. And along with that, we've got some global breakthroughs that are really fascinating to me, if not exactly all that promising in some regards because the quality's not there. And also Fred Again finally releasing the re-release of USB that I can see having some songs actually chart potentially next week. We'll have to see how that goes. I really hope they allow some songs to return because the quality is absolutely there. But yeah, that's all for this episode of an analysis of dance. See you next time.